Hi everyone, my name is Barsa and I'm the host of this podcast on the topic of self diversification and peace learning. Our guest this time is Nicholas, a young traveler with a super peaceful and creative personality. He is here tonight with us to share about the adaptation of diversity and inclusion through traveling and exploring new cultures. Nicholas, tell us a little bit about you, and there we go. You can actually have a greeting with our listeners.
Hey Parsa, super great to be here. I'm super excited to be sharing my story and a little bit more about myself. So, my name is Nicholas. I'm from Norway. I'm 22 years old, and the last 3 years, basically, I've been traveling the world on my mission to try to explore as many cultures as possible. Now, my goal is to showcase to people that like traveling and exploring new cultures can be a super beneficial thing to discover yourself in a more meaningful way. So that's really, really quickly about what I do, but we can go into more details on everything else later on, of course.
Of course. Thank you very much. So, actually, let's dive into your personal journey and motivation by asking you what exactly motivated you to start traveling and how has it changed your perspective on life?
So my traveling journey didn't actually start until really late in my 20s because I was using my pre-teens, or like you could say my 18-year-old, my 19-year-old and 2020s a lot more here in Norway. Using the culture here, I'm basically drinking, which is the most common thing to do here every weekend. But then the corona epidemic hit, and I was basically stuck at home. And when that stopped, I decided that, I've been doing this kind of partying thing for the last 2 years now. So maybe it's time to check out some new adventures. And just like alcohol it can be a drug. Traveling also can be a drug into new adventures as well. So I started off by traveling to the Netherlands to explore there with a friend of mine, and then quickly from there I realized that this is super interesting. So that kind of motivated me to keep on going. And then now I've just been trying to explore as much of the world as possible.
Beautiful. I mean, that's impressive indeed. So, well, I mean, based on what you said, I would say actually understanding the diversity and inclusion through traveling is what you have experienced. So, I mean, my next question for you would be how has traveling helped you understand and appreciate diversity and inclusion? And if can you share a specific experience where this became evident to you?
So of course I can give you some examples as well. So I of course am from Norway, and I've been kind of living in what you can say the Norwegian bubble for the last 20 years, which basically means that I've had a Norwegian point of view. I wanted to go to Spain for vacation. I had no real want or desire to explore cultures by connecting with people and seeing the culture differences. It was more just traveling was a way for me to vacation. But this kind of switched a bit when I started to notice that there was different forums and groups of people that were traveling, solo travelers basically, that wanted to meet up with other people. Now, this was a quite a new concept for me in terms of like I hadn't discovered it before. So the first times I did it was a bit weird. It was a bit new for me. And coming from my kind of Norwegian background, we Norwegian people, we're known as being super kind of introverted and super reserved. So going from kind of that mindset to now wanting to explore all the cultures and see so many things, it's quite a difference from what I'm used to. So in like how has traveling helped me understand and appreciate diversity, I would say that you realize after a while of traveling that everyone at the end of the day is just humans. There's so many differences, so many cultures, so many diversities, and of course ways of looking at life. But at the end of the day, when you kind of, I guess, go out of your comfort zone and are able to see beyond your scope, you're able to kind of switch off that bubble or that sense of like, oh, this person is so much different from me. And when you then have that connection with that person, you realize, wow, I mean, there maybe this person has a different religion, maybe this person, of course, is from a different country, they have different beliefs, but having this conversation with that person, together with that person, really is able to showcase that at the end of the day we're not really that different. So that's like in the broader scape, that's what I've been, I guess, feeling. But it all comes down to, my travels as well. At some point I kind of just forgot about this bubble. I started off with my kind of thinking around I didn't really have any grudges towards any cultures, but as like a, you hear things about the different cultures, you have this kind of thing you think because of how the local people think about that particular group. I mean, for example, I traveled to the Balkans last summer, and my family or my friends, some of them have this saying, of them being, kind of this stereotypical Balkan people, which is just, kind of the memes you see on Instagram and TikTok or whatever. But then, actually traveling there, you realize how actually similar in mindset and similar in the way they are personally as for me. And then you can just connect with basically anyone, is what I've just kind of realized.
Yes, of course. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, this is definitely really nice. I mean, just to listen to you, and of course, hearing all your thoughts and your comments and your ideas. Um, Indeed, I mean, you mentioned about something very interesting through your words. Um, Social media actually plays a very uh, how to say very strong role in actually creating different perspectives over cultures and different places all over the world, because I mean it could be in a way like in a very positive way or negative way depending on what is created, actually what is the content what is the content based on, actually. But so actually, let's say you explain a little bit about your travels and how traveling actually helped you to get out of a bubble which you lived for a long time within it, and then you got into more experiences that you had during your travels, and those kind of I would say my conclusion would be like just that you shaped actually your personality through traveling. However, I would just precisely let's a little bit talk about actually the impact of travel on your personal growth and peace learning, by asking you a question actually. How has your travel experience contributed to your personal growth and understanding of peace and the peace learning process?
I think that traveling has really just kind of created myself, or then the new kind of way I'm thinking. It has definitely helped on my personal growth and my understanding of both peace, but also the world, of course. So, like I spoke a bit about earlier, it kind of gives you the sense of like we're all humans, we're all here, we're not that different from each other. And I would say that after a while, after traveling to a lot of countries and seeing these cultures, your kind of mindset or your openness towards people and cultures becomes so wide. You have no kind of stereotypes. I mean, you can see stereotypes around, or you can hear about stereotypes, but you kind of challenge that idea. You kind of, okay, is that really true? Is that stereotype really true? And then you go there and you realize that maybe it's not as true as people say, or maybe it is, but maybe it is in a good way. I always come back from my travel experiences with really really great experiences and a lot of understanding around the world and appreciation for people around me, and that also really helps, you know, with my personal growth, because I come back and I try to implement. If I find something in, say, a country which I really really like, maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe it's a social thing, maybe it's just a random thing that I find cool, I'll try to implement it in my normal life here in Norway or wherever I go. So this experience, of course, from traveling so much, it gives me a deeper understanding, like I said now probably a million times, but it helps me with my personal growth. And when it comes to the understanding of peace, I realize that a lot of what the media says, a lot of what people say about don't travel here, don't go there, this group of people, we hate them because they're the news or whoever they are, it's not always true. It's about, you know, seeing it from your eyes and making your own kind of point of view towards it, because I believe that like a lot of the places I've been, a lot of the news articles, a lot of people are like, why would you go there? Then I go there and realize it's the most wonderful people and they're the most peaceful people that I met, and I believe that that's one of the aspects that people, after they've been traveling much, kind of realize is that wow, actually the world is really positive.
That's
So
perfect. I mean, great, great, great. Thank you very much. I mean, of course, part of any, I would say, any personal growth would be actually the challenges, right? And then how to overcoming them, um, right? I mean, do you agree on that?
yeah,
So
I would
if
say
you're
yeah.
if you agree in that, then we could actually just jump in to the next part, which is like overall the challenges of or and overcoming them. Um, well, in this section, I would say the question that is in my mind, and I would really love to hear your, I mean, words on that, is that what challenges have you faced while traveling, particularly in adapting to new cultures, and how did you overcome them?
All right, I'll split this up to three parts. So
Yes.
first, like, what challenges have you faced while traveling? Well, of course, if you don't count the part of like getting arrested in Uzbekistan, then I guess there's other things that are challenging, of course. But I would say that the kind of the main challenge is the things that you can't prepare for. You can make preparations for a lot of things for traveling, but suddenly there will be unexpected things which you're not able to plan for. It's maybe it's cultural things, maybe it's just bureaucratic things, who knows? But at the end of the day, you are then faced with that challenge, and you will need to adapt and then figure out the solution on the spot. Now, for example, this in a lot of cases on my newer travels has been when I'm crossing over the border to a new country, especially specifically countries where the kind of the border system is a bit less streamlined, we could say. Like it's a bit more people just rushing to the passport desk, etc. And then you find yourself in a position where, first of all, for example, on the border with Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, I didn't have any battery on my phone because there was no way I could charge my phone on the bus I was taking, even though I had full battery. I didn't have a SIM card. I could barely speak the language, and the bus didn't show up on the other side of the border, which was amazing. But you just need to adapt to the settings. You need to figure out the solution, and I think that that's actually really fun to try and be there and figure out both like culturally how can I approach this challenge, but also mentally yourself, like challenge yourself really to find a solution for this. And that also is a lot of ways by talking to the people, even if it's just sign language or the small amount of language you can. It really puts into perspective again, like there is these challenges, but you need to adapt to them and overcome them in a lot of different ways. And I think that like that's probably one of the challenges that I faced now recently, but
I mean,
a more kind
you're
of
you're
broader challenge you face while traveling, it's just like you realize at the end of the day like how great of an adventure it is, and you just want to spend the rest of the week or the rest of the year there, and you don't have that much time to do so, at least not for my sake. So yeah, I think that's my biggest challenge, is just not having enough time at each place, because once I go there, I find the people, I find a place I want to go, I just want to stay there. So that's the biggest challenge.
Well, that's I think a challenge that all of us we are facing while traveling, because once you really want to actually melt in, and I would say merging in like the local community, and then you find yourself, oh my god, I don't have enough time left for me to do that, or to continue to do
Exactly.
so. So it's just like a common sense, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, and I actually also think that like at the end of my travels, I end up trying to adapt to the culture. So I'm then like I'm just about to adapt to the culture, feeling like welcomed both by the people, but also I feel like okay, this is the culture I want to stay in for a bit. And then it's just like okay, I have a flight back to back to Norway booked for in like 2 days. I'm like okay, yeah. So that's always how it goes.
I think that's how it works, really. And I usually, basically, myself, sometimes when I'm traveling, I have the same issue with time, actually. I totally agree
Time is the
with you,
biggest issue.
because I personally am myself also like, I would, I always love to actually dive deep into, the local community, and try to learn the language, learn the culture, learn about the culture as much as I can. But then yeah, time is not always like in your favor. So it's just like the process of traveling, I think. I would just say, uh, let's put it this way, like, what do you think is the difference? This is my question to you regarding traveling. Do you consider yourself a tourist, a traveler, or an explorer? This is very difficult question. I know it's a very tough question. What do you consider yourself the most closely related to? Among these
Yeah.
three.
I would like to consider myself a local, but I know that that's not true. So I will need to choose one one of the three other categories, of course. But I guess I'm just more of an explorer of the culture. See, I don't really like to go to the touristy places. I am more interested in exploring the people and their kind of sense and what they do, and just kind of deep dive. Some of my meetings with people can quickly turn into what you would call like a integration of the people that I meet, because I just want to learn so much about the culture. So yeah, I think that just I really love exploring and learning. I just love to be able to take home fun facts that I can just randomly say and just be like, this person right here, he taught me about exactly this point, and now I can teach it further to other people. So I think that yeah, I don't consider myself a tourist, because if I was a tourist, I would only be getting drunk at the beach in a lot of these places, which I definitely am not.
No offense to tourists, because tourism industry is, pretty much, um, uh, increasing day by day. So
Yeah.
I've got one more question. Questions are actually raising another question, questions. So, do you find it like interesting about the fact that the traveling actually became so easy, and tourism industry grew quite fast in the past 2 decades, I would say, at least. So that now we have, like, a lot of tours, a lot of packages, a lot of work being done, like in tourism industry. Um, do you find it positive, actually, impact on a local community, hosting this whole tourism flow or not?
It's actually a really good question because I think that there's two aspects to this. There's both the positive side and the negative side. One of the kind of positive side is if it's a, I guess, a underdeveloped country or place which wants tourism, then it's a good thing that tourists are coming there. And if they provide, enough facilities for tourists and they provide enough for tourists to do, then it's a good thing. But the other side is a lot of what we see with social media now, which I am hoping I'm not contributing to too much, but which is the fact where a lot of places which aren't actually made for tourists, where, for example, maybe someone on Instagram finds this place and they will tag the location, and then tourists will flock there because say it's a really cool photo location, but the place itself is not designed for handling that many tourists. Then it becomes both a burden on the actual local people there, but also probably a safety issue in a lot of these places. So I think that there's really two different sides to look at this. Where if places actually want the tourism, then it's a good thing, but if they don't, then it can be a bad thing. So that's also why it's really really important to be really careful when you're posting things to kind of reckon, do I really want to tag this place? Is this a place which can support that many tourists? So that's also why I find it more interesting to dive into the people, because I think that like a person themselves, like it's easier for a person to travel to say this location, but it's a lot harder for say this person to maybe go up to a someone on the street or someone in a country and have these conversations that I want. So I think that yeah, there's definitely two aspects to this, but I am more, for my sake at least, I'm more wanting the not the tourist parts. But yeah, I agree. There's like two aspects of this.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I mean, I personally also agree on not actually, not disclosing the locations where there is no actually capacity for tourism. Of course, not. We're not talking about explorers, or I mean, in general, like the people who are, this is their job to go and visit the places and discover and explore hidden gems where we have on our planet. However, yes, I agree with you that disclosing, such places is not a good idea. But unfortunately, it's happening on social media pretty much openly, and I would say this is something very important to consider. Well, I mean, like to our part, we can just have our contribution as individuals, I believe, to not do what we think is wrong or what we think could be not positive towards an environment where it is unique, or it is just in general not really disclosed to the public. So, I mean, I would say like we got a really good conversation going on. I mean, questions coming more and more. But let's say, uh, I mean, you as a young traveler, and as you mentioned, you lived for your most of your life, most part of your life actually in Norway, and then you did not really have the idea of traveling or exploring new cultures, but it came to your life. I mean, your life direction changed. So I would say let's go to actually more of aspiring part of your conversation tonight. And perhaps you could have more of a answer to this question that I'm going to ask you, which will kind of like help aspiring our listeners and travelers that are listening to our podcast on this podcast. So What advice would you give to someone who wants to embrace diversity and inclusion through travel, but feels limited by their current circumstances?
Well, I think that there to maybe see exactly a point of view, but I would say that like one of the things that really changed my perspective on traveling, or at least on the world, is just just go up to people, just have a conversation. And I think that maybe, for example, in Norway, it's not as usual to do that, but it feels really freeing. For example, when I've been traveling and I can just go up and have a one-to-one conversation with someone, and then suddenly like they end up being my friend. So I think that to embrace diversity, you will first need to discover the diversity. If you're only stuck in your, say, your bubble or your friend group, then you will only be discovering again your friend group. So it's important to go out of that friend group or go out of your comfort zone and seek that discomfort by finding people that are diverse from you, and yeah, just kind of, again, I would just really advise asking questions, showing interest towards cultures and people, and just trying to learn as much as possible, because you realize right really quickly when you're traveling and asking these questions to people that you really don't know much. You really don't know much. And then when you are open to ask these questions, then and get these answers, you're like, wow, it's actually a lot that I'm able to learn here. So I think that that would be my main advice. Yeah, to just go up and spark conversations. Maybe not on the street. I mean, there's different ways of doing this. I mean, you could try couch surfing, for example. You could try going to meetups. You could do a lot of different ways. But I think it's just trying to learn from people and that are quite diverse from you. Some of the favorite conversation I've had is with people that are really completely different from me. That can be in any aspects, really. For example, I just came now from Uzbekistan, and I just, like I said, I just wanted to learn as much as possible about the people there. So just trying to embrace that diversity and just ask questions and be open for changes, I would say, is the best advice I could give.
Perfect advice, actually. I mean, I personally experience it like day to day life a lot. Every week I have. Well, I mean, recently I had this experience like I was at a very I mean no well-known place spot in the city in downtown, and then I just randomly, like, we were working on an interview, and then suddenly, like, this random person just was trying to get into interaction with us, and then we interacted, and then the rest of the day we spent together. Like, he joined us, and then we were all in a group of our community, and then it was just like, for him, a way to meet some locals from our community, and then some I mean, people who are living here, etc., so on and so forth. But I agree. Yeah, it's just all about interaction and to be open to interact with different people and different individuals, even though you don't know them. This is, I think, the best piece of advice anyone could give. Thank you for that, actually. So, I mean, overall, I would say, like, our conversation could last for hours and perhaps days, and it's etc., so on and so forth. But I mean, the time is limited. Of course, it could be. This is not. This is the first time, but this is not the last time. We're gonna have conversation, definitely. But for now, I think we could, if you agree, we could actually have a little bit of a recap of what we actually have conversed about tonight. I'm gonna, but just it would be just a brief exchange. I mean, don't hesitate to just contribute to this part as much as you want. No force in it, but then obviously, I mean, for me, it's very interesting to see how a young person from based on what you said, from a very small town in a way could actually or let's say eventually get to the point that he can claim now a title of an explorer, because this is something, very big. I mean, to me it's something very great. I mean, how someone could reach to a level where he or she can say, "Oh, well, I mean, I'm now an explorer, and I would love to explore more and more, and I continue to do so." I mean, all the way, like, to not call yourself a tourist or but an explorer, or actually to grow, to help your personal growth with traveling, and then getting to the point that expanding your diverse perspective over cultures and differences among individuals in societies. Uh, these are very fascinating. I mean, this is very much what I would say, an example. It's not an exaggeration. I mean, this is a very good example of actually, I would say, uh, self-diversifying process. And of course, once you're diversified, and once you learn about diversity and inclusion more and more, you get more in peace, and at peace with yourself, and in peace with everyone around you. I mean, surroundings. So I would say this was definitely very good to have all these words and thoughts exchanged. However, I mean, if you could give us, like, your final thoughts, actually, if you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners, go ahead. This is the floor, which is yours, and you can just use this to give your final thoughts to our listeners.
Final advice, as a kind of from a traveling perspective. I would say, travel as a local, not as a tourist. That's kind of my saying. Try to find the local places. Try to find the locals. Don't go to the tourist traps. It's not worth it.
Perfect. Great. I mean, I hope that, I mean, this is not against any tourism industry aspects of, tourism, or so on and so forth. It's just like perfect piece of advice from an explorer, a traveler. Nicholas, thank you very much for actually joining the podcast. And for our listeners, you can actually find more information about Nicholas's work, travels, and work in the link below in the description box. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave feedback below in the comments, and stay tuned in for the next episode. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.